Welcome to our guide on using course materials in English language teaching. In this guide, we will discuss the benefits and challenges of using course materials in the classroom, as well as the different types of materials available and how to select the right ones for your students. We will also provide some tips for using course materials in the classroom. There are many benefits to using course materials in English language teaching. Perhaps the most obvious benefit is that course materials can provide a structure and framework for your lessons. This can be extremely helpful, especially if you are new to teaching or if you are teaching a large class. Having a set lesson plan can help you to stay on track and ensure that you cover all of the necessary material. In addition, course materials can be a great way to introduce new topics or vocabulary to your students. If you are using a textbook or other published materials, you can be confident that the content is accurate and up to date. This is especially important with topics like grammar or pronunciation, which can change over time. Using course materials can also help you to introduce controversial topics in a safe and controlled environment. Finally, using course materials can help to create a more engaging and interactive learning environment for your students. By incorporating activities, games, and other hands-on learning opportunities into your lessons, you can help your students to retain more information and stay interested in the material. One of the challenges of using course materials in English language teaching is that they can sometimes be too difficult for students. If the material is too difficult, students will not be able to understand it and will become frustrated. It is important to select materials that are at the right level for your students. Another challenge of using course materials is that they can be expensive. If you are on a tight budget, you may not be able to afford all of the materials you need. Finally, another challenge of using course materials is that they can be time-consuming to prepare. You will need to spend time creating lesson plans and activities based on the materials. There are a variety of different types of course materials available for English language teachers. The most common type of course material is the textbook. Textbooks can be very helpful in providing a structure for a course and can be used to supplement other materials. However, they can also be quite expensive. Another type of course material is the workbook. Workbooks usually contain exercises and activities for students to do outside of class. They can be used to reinforce what was learned in class or to introduce new material. Workbooks are often less expensive than textbooks. There are also many different types of online materials that can be used for English language teaching. These materials can be found for free or for a fee on a variety of websites. Online materials can be very helpful in providing additional practice for students or in supplementing other materials. When it comes to selecting the right course materials for your students, there are a few things you need to keep in mind. First, you need to consider the level of your students. Are they beginners, intermediate, or advanced? The level of your students will dictate the type of materials you use. For example, if you have beginner students, you will want to use materials that are simple and easy to understand. On the other hand, if you have advanced students, you will want to use materials that are more challenging and stimulating. Another thing to consider when selecting course materials is the interests of your students. What are they interested in? What do they like to do? By taking their interests into account, you can select materials that they will be more likely to engage with and enjoy. Finally, you need to think about your own goals and objectives for the class. What do you hope to achieve? What do you want your students to learn? By aligning your goals with the materials you select, you can ensure that your students are getting the most out of the class. Make sure that the materials you select are appropriate for the level of your students. Choose materials that will interest and engage your students. Be familiar with the materials you select so that you can effectively use them in your lessons. Use the materials as a starting point for your lessons, and be prepared to supplement them with other activities and resources as needed. Encourage your students to be active participants in their learning by having them use the materials in various ways during your lessons. provide opportunities for your students to practice what they have learned with the materials outside of class. In conclusion, using course materials in English language teaching can be extremely beneficial for both teachers and students. However, it is important to select the right materials and to use them in an effective way in order to maximize their potential. With a little bit of planning and creativity, course materials can be a valuable addition to any English language classroom.